Boys Brigade was a church-based organisation, and my parents were both Baptists. In fact, my mother was a Girls Brigade officer, my father was a Boys Brigade officer, and I joined at the age of, I think it was about 8 in those days, into an organisation called the Life Boys, and then you progress through into the Boys Brigade. You have to appreciate that the Bletchley that I was brought up in the 1960s was a completely different place to what it is today. Basically, if you wanted to play football, the Boys Brigade was your only option. Many of us went in at the age of 8 and left at the age of 18. Well, we suddenly realised that in 1972, I think it was about mid-season, it was January time, so it wasn't exactly the best weather, if I can remember rightly. We were due to play the very last game on the football pitches at Albert Street, which are now lost under the shopping development around Iceland and Lidl. So basically what happened in that particular case was that the pitch was being handed over to the builders, and we were destined to play the very last game on there. And we played in a league in those days called the Boys Brigade Three Counties League. We played against a local team from Wadden Way called the 3rd Bletchley Boys Brigade Company, and after the game we had some people who had been involved in local football come to a ceremony, and the ceremony was simply to recognise that this was the very last game to be played on the pitch. The Boys Brigade chaplain, a chap called the Reverend Paul Innes, who had been an athlete in his Oxford University days, he wore his tracksuit with his gown over the top, and a ceremony took place, and the wording that he used was basically in biblical speak relating to the various football teams that had played on the pitch and the tradition that had gone on for many, many years. And from then onwards we played the last post and ceremonially dug a hole on the centre spot and buried a football. We had one of our players, Paul Phillips, who was one of the best buglers. He played the last post in his football kit. One of the sergeants, a chap called Clive Bradley, he was in full uniform, and he knelt down and buried the football. It was all done very seriously in terms of respect. We recognised that we were taking part in this particular activity. It would never see football again. It was going to become a building site, I think, on a Monday morning. It just seemed at the time that we who were playing, and I was one of the senior players, in fact I was the team captain, wanted to make sure that we recorded what had happened in the past, and to pay our respects to really everybody who had played there, because this really was the passing of an era. Forasmuch as it has pleased the Council of its great public concern to take to itself these pitches now redundant, we therefore commit the symbol of their use to the ground, mud to mud, ashes to ashes, in the vague hope of other places being continually available through the good offices of the Education Authority, who can create pitches in an eternal succession for ever and ever. Now it came to pass in the days of our fathers' fathers that the people of the Bletchleyites and the surrounding tribes were a warlike people, and their young men did form themselves into companies, and went to do battle on the Sabbath days. Great were the deeds of valour performed by our fathers and their fathers in the place known as the Swamp by the way of Albert.